Today we will be starting another new topic. This topic is called setting up the accounts payable, or we can call as a suppliers module, or sometimes we can call this as a vendor module. So how to set up the vendor or the supplier or the accounts payable module is going to be discussed during the today's session. So in these two videos, we will be doing the two videos for that. Chapter 5 covering with the first part will cover the default setting, and the second part will cover the details about how to create the vendors and also how to enter the beginning balances. So to start up our discussion today, you need to have the final backup file which you have taken after creating the general ledger module. That means the chapter number 4. If you have completed the chapter number 4, after completing the chapter number 4, you need to have a backup file for your own company. That means either for AFMA 2020 company or for the BCom 2020 company. By using that backup file only, we can continue doing this activity. Today, we will be discussing a separate module. And meantime, when we are going to discuss this separate module called the vendor or the supplier, we will be immediately discussing how we are going to link these vendor modules to the general ledger, and also how you are going to establish the link between the vendor module and the stock ledger. And all these kind of linkages will be discussed during this session. So it is going to be very vital and important how these relationships are going to be built one by one when you are creating the ledger accounts. So if you come to the lesson outcomes, you can see what is expected from you from this particular lecture, right? So you will be able to create the vendor module and complete the whole setup of the vendor module after completing this particular session. So as you know, accounts payable, or it is called the vendor, or we call creditors, monitors the product received from the vendors or the suppliers, right? And the money paid to them. So this particular module will help us to monitor all transactions relevant to the suppliers related to the product or services which you have purchased for the reselling purpose, and also how much of the money you paid for each and every vendor during the particular given period. So we can monitor everything by using one module. You can set up the payment terms, aging guidelines, and more information into the vendor module. When transactions are posted in accounts payable, the relevant journals are going to be updated. When the transactions are going to happen within the particular module, these transactions, as we are going with the real-time processing method, it automatically updates the relevant accounts available in the ledger through the journal entries. So the journal intent update the ledger account. So we don't have to create any journals. When you do the transaction by using the transaction windows, once you are doing the transaction and saving the transaction, it automatically generates the required journal entries, and through the journal entries, it will update to the general ledger accounts. So the interaction, how this particular module is going to work with the other modules, are given in the figure number 5.1. So please look at this diagram. This diagram shows you how the accounts payable module, suppliers module, we call vendor module, is going to work with the other modules once the relationships are built. So you can see that there's a straight relationship between the suppliers module and the general ledger. Any transaction occurred within this given particular module will intent generate the journal entries, and through the journal entries it updates the general ledger respective accounts, right? Respective account related to the particular transaction. For example, if you purchase certain item from the vendor, so your double entry need to be the debit to the general ledger stock account and credit to the general ledger suppliers control account. So that will be the transaction updated here. And meantime, once you goods receive, that goes to the inventory as well. So it will be debited into the inventory account and it is credited into the individual suppliers under the suppliers module. So you can see the very simple flow of how the activities are going to happen at the time of the purchase. So that will automatically update the relevant accounts and the relevant ledgers by doing one particular certain activity. So there's a relationship. You can see sometimes there's a direct relationship between the accounts payable and the job costing available in the system. though we are not going to discuss the job costing due to the unavailability of the time. So you can see sometimes we may order the item from the supplier directly to the particular job. It is not going to update the inventory account. It will be transferring to the job, and job will be taken in that particular item cost and calculate the job value, right? So that is another relationship between the accounts payable and the job cost sheet. And also you can see the very rare relationship between the supplier and the customer module. Now in this accounting software package, we have an option whereby we can ask our supplier to directly deliver the goods to the customer rather than bringing that into your stores, and from the stores to issue that to the customer. We can instruct our supplier by doing a certain command whereby the supplier need to deliver the goods not to our stores, directly to the customer location. So that's why you can see the relationship between the supplier and the account receivable or the customer module also available there. So all these modules are going to work together, and meantime we can see in a particular window where we are going to create the purchase orders or the purchase invoices. We can see the linkages, and automatically each ledgers will be taken all the information from respective ledgers, right? So this is the relationship, overall relationship of the transaction modules within the accounts payable system. So when you are using the accounts payable, all these activities are going to carried out automatically due to the integration between the different modules, right? I hope you got an idea. මේ diagram එකෙන් පැහැදිලි කරන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා පුතාලට පැහැදිලි වෙන්නේ නැති. මේ diagram එකෙන් පෙන්වන්නේ suppliers module එක කොහොමද අනිකුත් module එක ක්‍රියා කරන්නේ කියන එක. ඒතර මේ හැම module එකම අපි සාකච්ඡා කරන හැම module එකම inventory module එක, customer module එක, general ledger module එක, මේ හැම module එකකම තියෙන අවශ්‍ය කරන ගිණුම් ඒ ආකාරයෙන්ම අප්ඩේට් වෙනවා අපි මොන හරි transaction එකක් suppliers ලගේ module එකේ කරොත්. So ඒක තමයි relationship එක. Now, each of these other modules, when we are going to discuss the other modules, mean your suppliers module, your customer module, and your inventory module. When you are preparing these modules, there's a way of preparing these items. There are 3 stages. First stage, we need to set up the default setting. I believe at the moment you got an idea of what you mean by the defaults. So it briefly inform you, defaults are the common features or the very important features which is commonly flow to the each and every vendor, maybe each and every customer, each and every item, or each and every general ledger account. These are maybe the policies of the company. These are the standards of your company. So that's why make sure these default settings are very crucial at the beginning of the transaction process into the other modules. So now when it comes to the default setting, why it is important to set up these defaults at the beginning. Reason is when you are going to create each and every vendor, you may be having 10, 15 or 100 vendors already available in your business. So are you going to enter all this information for each and every person? No, it is going to take a lot of time for you to create the vendors. That's why some common features like a credit limit, credit per limits, and also the discount factors and so many other things what is common for the each and every supplier, we can put that into the default settings, and from that it's automatically flow to the individual cards of the vendor, right? So that's why defaults are the common features or the standards or the policies which the companies apply against the vendors. So now you can see what we are going to do here. Before transactions are posted into the accounts payable module in Sage, it is recommended to enter the default information related to the vendor. So මේ අදාළ vendorට අදාළ defaults ටික එහෙම නැත්නම් common features ටික මුලින්ම අපි කරන්න ඕනේ ඒ default settings වලට ඇතුළත් කිරීම. Default information is a common information to a particular section such as the vendor, customer and etc. For each module එකකට පුතා separate defaults තියෙනවා. ඒතර මේ හැම default එකක්ම අපි මුලින්ම කරන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි general ledger එක හදන වෙලාවේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැක්කා ඔයගලන්ට defaults කරන්න බෑ accounts නැතුව. ඒක නිසා තමයි ගිණුම් ටික හැදුවට පස්සේ තුන්වෙනි අවස්ථාවේදී තමයි අපිට සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ default set කරන්න. But in other ledgers, when you are coming to the other ledgers such as the suppliers, customer and also the inventory ledger, item number 1 is going to be the default setting, right? To access the default, there are various ways we can access into the default. Now let's look at first of all how you can go to the default window. Again, we can use three different methods. First method, if you go to the maintain main menu in your program, and then you can go to the default information section, and that you can see different type of defaults. At the moment we have discussed the general ledger default. Now today we will be starting discussing the vendor defaults or the suppliers default, or we call accounts payable default. So if you click that, default window get open. Now you can see there are several tabs to be entered. First tab is called payment terms and credit terms. It need to be there, and also the general ledger links, whereby the system will link this module into the general ledger. And also you can see the account and aging tab, customer field tab, and 1099 setting, which is not applicable to the Sri Lankan context, but there are several tabs which you can click and adjust. Those tabs, once you adjust it here, everything will be flow to the each and every vendor, right? This is the first method. Now let's look at the second method, how you can access into the default window. You can go to the option command in the main menu. From there also we can see the section called default information. From that we can access to the vendor default settings. So again we can see all these four tabs are there, whereby we can appropriately apply required information into the each of these particular tabs, right? So that is the second method which we call. Second method, if you go to the option command and then you know how to get that default information, from there we can go to the vendor and open that. And also there's a third method which you can access into the vendor default, that by going into the vendor module. This is the module we are creating today, vendor and purchase module. So if you go to the vendor and purchase module, that will open up the vendor navigation center. There you can see the first button is called vendor button, whereby it allows you to create your vendors, right? And if you click that edge, you can see the separate link called setup vendor defaults. By clicking that also, we will be able to access into the same window. This is the main window where the default settings are concerned. So the vendor default window, let us go by each of these tabs and try to understand the features what we need to enter. Then after that, we are using the handout and going to enter the information what is given for the AFMA 2020 company as well as for the BCom 2020 company, right? Now we'll come to the first tab. First tab is called payment term tab. Now look at what are the information required to enter under this particular tab. Now there are certain items called standard terms and condition applicable to the vendors. Various methods of which you have to make the payments to the vendors. Now, what do you mean by the COD? When you click that option button, you can see some of these options are disabled. Now, when you click the COD method, you cannot see the net due days, and also you cannot see the discount in days. These two items are going to disappear, and also discount percentages are going to be disappear. All three are not accessible now. So what do you mean by the COD? So this particular method, if the company is using the policy as a policy COD method, mean every time when the vendor deliver the item to your office or to the stores, you have to make the payment immediately. That is called cash on delivery method. C mean cash, O mean cash on, and D mean delivery. Cash on delivery method. So immediately goods receive කරපු ගමන් අපි payment එක කරන්න. ඒතර ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවක net due days කතන්දර මුකුත් නැහැ. So due date එකක් නැහැ. Items ටික ආපු ගමන් පුතාලට payment එක කරන්න. So if the policy of the company is that, and most of your suppliers are only delivering the goods on the COD method, then we have to select that method. Remember one thing, defaults mean common features. එතකොට අපි වැඩියෙන්ම මෙතන select කරන්න ඕනේ වැඩි දෙනෙක්ට භාවිතා කරන ක්‍රමය. There can be one or two suppliers, they don't want to go for other method, they want you to make the payments immediately after delivery. That means you can adjust that later on when it comes to the individual supplier. Here we are talking about the common feature. පොදුවේ වැඩි දෙනෙක්ට බලපාන කරුණු තමයි මෙතනට දාන්න ඕනේ. That is the first method, right? Then the second method, what we call prepaid method, it is worse than the early method as well. So again, you can see these three activities are disabled. And what do you mean by the prepaid? prepaid method එක බඩු ගේන්නත් ඉස්සෙල්ලා we have to make the payment to the supplier. That means we have to make the advance payment to the supplier to deliver the goods to the office. ඒතර අපි අර ලී බඩු ගන්නකොට සමහරවිට අපි මුලින්ම මුදල් ගෙවලා පස්සේ තමයි ලී බඩු හදවන්නේ. ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So all the suppliers are delivering the item after receiving the money. So that is called prepaid method. If the policy is that, then we can go by that. Then we come to the third policy. Third policy is called due in number of days, and immediately you can see all these activities: net due date in, discount in days, and the discount percentages are opening up for us to enter. That is the normal method basically used by most of the business organization. What do you mean by that? Due in number of days. Now we can tell due in number of days mean how many days you are going to allow the customer to make the payment to the supplier. So supplier need to tell us that they will be giving us this much of number of days to do the payments, right? In that case, you can see number of days need to be entered here. Say if the suppliers, most of the suppliers agree to give you 30 days credit. So this read now, every supplier will agree to give us 30 days net due days, whereby you can make the payments to the delivery item within that 30 days. And also it implies another policy, whereby if the suppliers are agreed, that most of the suppliers are agreed, within the 10 days of reaching the items or the invoice, if we make the payment, then we will be eligible to get a small cash discount, say 2% of cash discount. So that was another policy whereby most of your suppliers will give you. So advantage is given for you to make the payment early, whereby you will be able to get 2% cash discount from the invoice value, right? This is not the invoice discount. This is the early payment discount. Early payment discount. අපි කලින් ගෙවන නිසා අපිට ලැබෙන discount එක. Okay? Not the invoice discount. Invoice discount is a separate thing, whereby invoice value එකෙන් percentage එකක් අපිට discount එකක් දෙන එක, right? It is not depend on the number of days. Okay, so that is the policy we can establish when you go for the due in number of days. Now let's look at the next policy. It is called due on days of next month. What it mean? Due on the next days of next month. So if I put that policy again, you can see this is going to be available to type. So it says now due on the 30th next month. That means if you have purchased something in today is the 28th of July. So if you are purchasing something in the 28th of July, the due date will come to the next month, right? And a particular date. Now according to this, you can see my due dates come on August 30th. It's exact date of the due on the 30th next month. So the transaction එක කරන්නේ July නම් due on the next month කියන්නේ අගෝස්තු. ඒතකොට අගෝස්තු 30 වෙනිදා තමයි මගේ payment due days. එතනදිත් අපිට පුළුවන් early settlement policy එකක් settle කරන්න. So if the suppliers are agree to give the early payment discount එකක්, so we can go by that condition as well, right? The last option, which is called due at the end of month. When you select that option, you can see there's no option of due days. So automatically, if the purchase is done today, 28th of July, that means your due date is going to be 30th of July. No other option, right? Due in the end of the month. Again, we can give a early settlement discount policy there, right? So general practice of the most of the companies are going by the number of days due. So this is the policy, right? Due in number of days. That is the general practice. And also here, we can enter the maximum credit limit allowing by our suppliers. So this is the common policy. Again, remember this is the common policy, whereby most of the suppliers need to agree for that particular value. If you are giving a credit policies, these policies need to be agreed by at least more than 50% of your suppliers. Then only we can enter that as a common criteria or the common policies. These are the first section, where we can see the standard terms, set the default terms for the purchase, default for the credit limit, and so forth section, right? That was given here as well. More details are available in this particular section. You can see the payment tab and what are the things you have to do for the particular given payment tab. So please read this as well and get more information about that. And also it's explain you vendor payment terms and tab, which I have already explained to you. And then we will be moving into the second tab. Now, before we move into the second tab, there's another link to be discussed. So let me discuss that as well before we'll move on to that. So very important link. Now you can see here, it says GL link account. Set the default accounts for the new vendor records. The expenditure account can be also changed in each of the vendor record. Now here we are giving the common link to the general ledger. එතකොට අපිට පුළුවන් ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් සප්ලයර්ගේ ලෙවල් එකේදී මේ ledger accounts ඕනනම් මාරු කරන්න. නමුත් මෙතනදී common policy එකක් හැටියට company need to have a common policy whereby where they are going to link this transaction. Now you know, when we are doing the transaction in a perpetual accounting system, whereby every purchase you made from the vendor, it is not going to be debited into the purchase account, right? Purchase account will be used at the time when you are using the periodic accounting system. But in the perpetual method, we are not using the purchase account. So we will be keeping track with the straight away with our stock account. So all the items you purchase from the vendor generally credit to the vendor ledger, and meantime it will be debited into the respective stock account. So the stock account need to be the debit account. That's why here, when it comes to the expenditure category account, your expenses account need to be the stock account of the company. So if you have a inventory account created under the category called inventory, that is the account need to be linked here. So that means when you do the transaction with the vendor, it automatically debit general ledger inventory account, and it will be credited to the respective liability account of the supplier, that is trade payable account. So that part is automatically happening because we are setting up the general defaults for the supplier. So supplier account එක automatically ගන්නවා. හැබැයි අපි කියන්න ඕනේ කොයි ගිණුමටද debit කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. So that is the account we have to select, right? Depending on the situation, we will look at what sort of information is given in our handout and we will enter that, right? Then it says discount GL account. Now what do you mean by the discount GL account? The supplier කෙනෙක් ඔයගලන්ට invoice discount එකක් දෙනවා. ඒ discount එක අපිට මොකක්ද? ඒ discount එක අපිට advantage එක. Whereby it is going to be the additional income, because actual value of the invoice is 100,000 rupees, but you will be given 10,000 rupees discount. That means you have to pay only 90,000 rupees. So what is the situation in that case? You will be receiving additional income called discount received. So here we have to make sure under the supplier's ledger we need to apply account called income category type of account. Maybe it's a discount received, maybe it's a given discount, any name, but it need to be the account type income. So you should enter the account type income here to attach. So then when you purchase the item from the supplier which is worth of 100,000 rupees, double entry goes to 100,000 into the stock account and credit to the supplier's account another 100,000. And meantime, if the discount is eligible to you, then when it comes to the payment level, so the cash will be paid only 90,000 rupees from the cash account, and the investment, the supplier's ledger will be debited 90,000, and meantime another 10,000 debited to the supplier ledger, and that will be credited to the discount account. It's a received discount, right? Discount given or received discount to the company. It's an income account. So those are the items we have to enter under the payment terms. Now let's go to our handout and look at our activity and fulfill this requirement first. Now you can look at the activity number 5.1, which says the management of the APMA 2020 Private Limited, or it may be the BCom 2020 Private Limited, decided to set following default information of its vendors. Now the first part, we are talking about these 4 items only, right? Please concentrate into the first 4 items. Standard term. What do you mean by the standard term? That is the policy of the company to make the payment to the suppliers. So our standard term due in number of days. And then based on that, most of the suppliers agree to give us 60 net due days and 30 discounting in days and 3% cash discount. So that is the policy we have to enter now into the system. So we'll go to the system and select due in number of days first, and it says net due days period is given most of the suppliers to use 60 days, and discount in days we have given 30 days, and our percentages discount is given as how much? 3%, right? As I can remember, it's 3%. Okay, 3%. So we have to go for the 3% discount eligible if the settlement is made before 30 days of the invoice date. I think you got the idea, right? So that is the information provided to system, as most of the suppliers are agree with this term. Okay, that is the common policy of the company. Okay, then we look at the credit policy. So what is the credit policy? So most of the suppliers is giving us 500,000 credit limit. So up to 500,000 we can purchase the item without any problem on credit basis. So that is the policy given here. So that need to be applied into the credit limit policy. 500,000 rupees. So that is the amount, right? So we can go up to that. Then the link in account. This is very, very crucial. This is going to be the integration between the general ledger and your suppliers module, right? So let's look at the integration. It says we need to link this into the common account called 1050CL. So we need to know what is that account, 1050CL. Let's check. So if you don't know the account number, so you can type even 1050. So you can see the account will appear immediately. Then by clicking this small magnifying button, you can see the account name. 1050CL means the inventory or your stock account, which comes under the category called inventory. So this is going to be the debit account of each and every purchase you made. Okay, select that and link that to the expenditure category. Then the discount account. So the discount account, again, according to the handout, it says discount GL account is need to be 4200 CL. For that, we need to create a new account as a discount received. So this particular account currently not available in the system. So you ask to create a new account at the time when you are going to do the transaction. Then පුතාලට තේරෙනවනේ. ඒතර ගිණුම් ටික අපි මුලින්ම හැදුවට දැන් අලුත් ගිණුමක් අපිට ඇතුළත් කිරීමට අවස්ථාව ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒතර ඒකට මේ වෙලාවේ අපි කෝඩ් එක දුන්නා. නමුත් ඔයගොල්ලෝ හදනවා නම් කෝඩ් එකක් දීලා නැත්නම් ඒ රේන්ජ් එක ඇතුලේ බලලා ඉන්කම් accounts හදපු රේන්ජ් එකේ බලලා ඉවරලා ඉතුරු තියනක we have to create. So let's create this account and then we will attach that account into the appropriate place. For that, we don't have to go back to the creation window, right? You can come to the magnifying button here, whereby we can select the account. We know that account is not there now, so we can click that. Then in this particular window at the bottom, there are some tool buttons available at the bottom. One of the tool button is called new. By clicking that, you will be able to access into the maintain chart of account window. Now as you are given the number, it's a matter of typing 4200 account code එක CL. Clothing business එකේ තමයි stocks තියෙන්නේ. Training business එකේ stock එකක් නැහැ. එතකොට අපේ ඔක්කොම items vendors ළඟින් purchase කරනවා යන්නේ clothing business එකේ stock account එකට. එතකොට ඒකට අදාළව තමයි අනිත් ගිණුම. එතකොට discount එකක් ආවත් ඒක යන්නේ clothing business. Then we have to enter the description, name of the particular account, and this need to be received discount is a income category account. So you have to make sure you select the income category. So we have now created the particular account. You can see the new account is created by giving the given code 4200 CL, and the name of the account is given the same name, discount received, and the type is a very crucial because this is the income you are going to generate from the supplier. We are not going to pay that money, so that is additional income to your company, whereby you select that as an income, and then you can save this and close this window, and that will be appearing in your place. You can see when you click this again if you want, so you can see the name of the account also will appear. So now we can see the debit account is going to be the inventory, and the discount receive account will be credited at the time when the payments are made to the suppliers according to the conditions, right? So this is going to be the receive discount account. I hope everyone did this particular first step, right? Let's move on to the second tab now. Account aging. You know how difficult. Maybe you have prepared the age table reports. A level කරනකොට සමහරට හැදුවා වෙන්නේ නැති පුතා. Age table report එකක් generate කරනවා. What do you mean by the age table report? As you can see, age table will shows the outstanding scattered into the different periods. අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් අපි ගෙවන්න තියෙන මුදල මාසෙකට කොච්චරක් තියෙනවද මාස දෙක අවුට්ස්ටෑන්ඩින් තියෙනවා කොච්චරක් තියෙනවද මාස තුනක් අවුට්ස්ටෑන්ඩින් තියෙනවා එහෙම අපිට පුළුවන් ඕන ෂෙඩියුල් එකකට ගන්න. ඒකට කියනවා අපි age report එහෙම නැත්නම් age payable report. now suppliers ලාට හදනවා නම් age payable report. ඒතර මේ report එක හදන්න පුළුවන් ක්‍රම දෙකක්. you can see the age invoice by two methods are available in the system. one is called invoice date. එතකොට මෙයා invoice date එකේ ඉඳලා invoice එක ගන්නවා age table එකට. invoice date mean the goods received date එක. එතකොට invoice date එක අද නම් අද ඉඳලා age table එකට මේ outstanding එක යනවා. payment එක කරේ නැත්තම්. පැහැදිලිද? ඊළඟට තියෙන second option එක තමයි due date. due date කියලා කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේ 60 දවසක් ගියාට පස්සේ. So due date එක තියෙන අපේ invoice එක අද කරා නම් දවස් 60කට පස්සේනේ. So after the 60th date it will take into the age table. So that is called due date option. Okay. So if you take the invoice option, generally you have to take from the first day. Day 1 එකේ ඉඳලා ඒතර බිඳුවේ ඉඳලාම අපි ගන්නවා. due date එකේ ගත්තොත් එහෙම අපි පටන් ගන්න ඕනේ එහෙමනම් 60. 60ට වෙනකන් දේවල් පෙන්වන්න ඕනේ නෑ අපේ age table එකේ because we don't have to rush and keep the this is especially wanted why this particular item is wanted for cash planning. ඒතර ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැනගන්න ඕනේ ඔයගොල්ලන් cash අතේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ මේ payments කරන්න. So for the cash planning purpose these particular informations are very much required. So that's why depending on the given situation we have to go by selection of the invoice date or the due date. Then package itself allow you to go with the 4 column analysis. columns හතරක තමයි analyze වෙන්නේ. ඒතර අපිට ඕන නම් පළවෙනි column එකේ now according to the standards given here පළවෙනි column එකේ පෙන්නනවා දවස් 30ක් ඇතුලේ invoices outstanding එවුවා. ඒ කියන්නේ පළවෙනි දවසේ ඉඳලා එහෙම නැත්නම් 0 date එකේ ඉඳලා ආපු පළවෙනි දවසේ ඉඳලා invoice එක දවස් 30ක් වෙනකන් up to 30 days outstanding which is not paid will come under the column number 1. So the second column it will take after the 30 days. You cannot have the same number into the end and the beginning, right? So it is contradictory values, then you cannot go by that. So you can see here ending date is 30, starting date is 31. So the invoices which is already exceeded 31 days up to 60 days will appear in the column number 2. එතකොට දින 30ක් පැනලා 31ක් වෙලා දින 60 දක්වා තියෙන invoices ටික පෙන්නනවා column 2 එකේ. ඊට පස්සේ column number 3 එකේ පෙන්නනවා අපේ මේකේ හැටියට 90 days වල ඉපුවා. ඒ කියන්නේ 61 date එකේ ඉඳලා 90 days දක්වා unpaid invoices තියෙනවා නම් that will be shown in the column number 3. And finally සමහර invoices තියෙන්න පුළුවන් more than 90 days overdue. So those invoices will appear in the column number 4 according to this structure. So that need to be given at the beginning of the system. So once you give that instruction to the system is ready to prepare your age table according to the given condition, right? So that is very crucial and important. So let's look at the policy of the AFMA 2020 as well as the BCom 2020. Now the accounting policy is here. You can see the aging policy. Account aging categories based on the invoice date. So first of all, we have to make sure that we are going to select invoice date. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට invoice එක ලැබුණු දිනේ ඉඳලා, right? Invoice date. Then after that, the second situation we can see first category, that means the net due days එක. අපිට කලබල වෙන්න ඕනේ නැති period එක. That means all customers are suppliers are agree to give us a net due days 60, no? So that grace period 0 to 60 days will come into the level 1 of your table. Thereby you don't have to rush and plan your cash, right? That is the option we are going to go here. So then we have to enter the last date here under the days, 60 days. So that is the last date again. And also it says you need to take all the invoices from 0 to 60 days. So the මුලින් පළවෙනි දවස් ඉඳලා 60 වෙනකන් එන ඔක්කොම invoices ටික unpaid invoices will appear in the column number 1 as a payable amount. Then the second level, we want to go 61 to 90 days. Then you have to adjust the days maximum level like a 90, and it should start from the 61 after finishing the 60 days. 61 to 90 days. It will appear in the column number 2. When it comes to the third level, it says 91 to 120 days. So your longest range is 120 days. Then it may appear in the third column invoices outstanding starting from 91 to 120 days. Then sometimes you may have invoices which is not paid over 120 days. That is coming under the number 4 column, 120 days. Right? Exceeding 100. 120 පැනපු ගමන් 121 වෙනි දිනේදී outstanding balance will change into the column number 4. So from the invoice date, everything will be appearing in this age table in 4 columns. The first 60 days will appear in the column number 1, and 61 to 90 days will appear in the column number 2. 91 to 120 will appear in the column number 3, and finally more than 120 days will appear in the column number 4. Please remember that, right? That is the policy related to the account aging. Then when it comes to the custom field means additional information you require to maintain related to your vendor. Maybe other. So the system allows, now general informations are there in the individual cards of the vendor. Other than that information, if the particular business organization want to maintain something important, which they think that is necessary to keep regarding the vendor information, that we can customize here. So it says, you can see, custom fields can be used to enter extra information about the vendor. අර තියෙන ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් එකට අමතරව වෙනත් මොන හරි තොරතුරු ඔයගලන්ට තියාගන්න ඕන නම් වෙන්න පිළිබඳ ඒවා අපිට මෙතනට එන්ටර් කරන්න පුළුවන් up to 5 levels. ඒතර අපිට ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් පහක් මේන්ටේන් කරන්න පුළුවන් මෙතන අමතර ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් හැටියට. Use these fields about to label them on the all your vendor screen. දැන් මෙතනදි කරන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් මේන්ටේන් කරන එක නෙවෙයි, ඒකට අදාළව හෙඩින් එක ඩෙවලොප් කරන එක. That means you are developing the headings or so-called description. Now we want to maintain the office manager's name, which is not available in the general vendor card. Normally vendor ගේ පුරවන කාඩ් එකේ අපිට office manager ගේ නම පවත්වාගෙන යන්න තැනක් නැහැ. ඒතකොට අපිට ඒක වැදගත් කියලා හිතන නිසා අපි යාගේ නම එන්ටර් කරන්න තැනක් හදනවා office manager කියලා. ඒ වගේම accounts rep කවුද කියලා අපිට මේන්ටේන් කරන්න ඕන නම් ඒ account rep ගේ නම මේන්ටේන් කරන්න අපි තැනක් හදනවා. ඒ වගේම ස්පෙෂල් නෝට් එකක් මොන හරි විශේෂ විස්තරයක් අපිට මේන්ටේන් කරන්න ඕන නම් මේ සප්ලයර් ගැන අපිට ඒක තියාගන්න. තවත් දුරටත් ඔයගලන්ට ඕන නම් ස්පෙෂල් in items to be maintained, you have to tick onto this tick box, then you have to type the heading, right? If you tick on, you need to make sure that you have to enter the heading. tick කරලා තිබුණොත් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම heading එකක් දාන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම අවශ්‍ය නැත්නම් we can remove all these ticks. That means you don't have any additional information relevant to the suppliers other than what is available in the suppliers ledger. පැහැදිලිද? දැන් අපි බලමු ARC company එහෙම නැත්නම් BCom company එකේ policy එක මොකක්ද කියලා. Now additional fields what they required is the sales manager and special note. ඒගොල්ලන්ට දෙකයි ඕනේ. sales manager ගේ නම maintain කරගන්න ඕනේ. ඊට අමතරව special note එකක් ඕනේ. So we have to apply that here. Office manager වෙනකොට we can do the small modification. We can make it this as a sales manager. Then account rep no need, special note is there in the item 3, so you can tick on to the item 3, the other special notes are concerned. So we can enter the field number 1, field number 3. If you want to bring this into the field number 2, then we can copy this or we can cut this and we can tick on here. We can put that here as well, paste it here and then remove this tick. So we have only 2 fields whereby we can enter the sales manager name and as well as we can maintain the special note. Now the 1099 setting is a setting which is applicable to the subcontracting, which we are not going to use here in the Sri Lankan context. That's why we will be not having any discussion or any testing related to the 1099 setting for the suppliers. Now when you come to the 1099 setting, you can see that informations are provided here. These settings on the 1099 setting tab allow you to define the way Sage 50 track the report payments made to the 1099 vendors. Those are subcontractors. For instance, the payment you make to the independent contractor for service rendered should be reported as 1099 setting, right? Subcontracts දෙනවා නම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඒ contractors ලට pay කරන විදිය තමයි 1099 settings වලින් අපි set කරන්නේ. Now you can see the window, vendor payment method window of the new version 2019 Sage package. There you can see additional field is there which is not available in your package. පුතාලගේ පැකේජ් එකේ නැති එක ටැබ් එකයි මෙතන තියෙන්නේ අලුත් එකේ. ඒක තමයි payment method එක. අපි මොන ක්‍රමවේදය යටතේද ගෙවීම් කරන්න කියලා suppliersලට. So in the new version, they have added new tab. So where we can tell up to 20, 30 different ways of making the payment. It may be the cash, it may be the check payment, it may be the credit card payment, right? Various type of methods can be here, whereby you can apply to the individual suppliers when you are making the payments, right? So that is not very important item. In an old version that is not available, but still we have to tell at the time when you are going to make the payment, we have to tell how we are going to make the payment to the supplier. So that doesn't matter whether it is available in the default settings or not. So we have gone through all the default settings and we have applied all the things accordingly. Now this is invalid for you because you don't have that option. So please remember that this section cannot be done with the old package. So that's why we are not going to apply that here in your package, right? So remember that, right? So මේක අදාළ නෑ පුතාලට මේ කෑල්ල එක මම color කරන්නම්. එතකොට ඔයගලන්ට පේනවා I will put a yellow color which is not applicable to the Peachtree package. But the people who are having the Sage package, they can do that. Otherwise, it is not necessary, right? So this is the story about how to create the default setting and what do you mean by the defaults of the vendor and how we need to fulfill that requirement. I hope everyone got the perfect understanding, and now it's time for you to enter that information into your last backup file. Open up the last backup file of your company and then please feed this information, and to update the required fields what you have entered, you need to finally click OK button. Let me show it again. Payment terms are set forth, account agents are set, custom fields are set, then we will click OK to confirm that. So these fields will be now saved into the system. Okay, first complete that part carefully.